Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome. And you live in a dream. Wait, what are you hyping? What are you doing hypes? Wait, I need to. There's no sound yet, but who is that? Let me see who. Oh my gosh, I'm pushing on the wrong button. Let's see if I can find who that is. That would be the Sandman. Sandman, I found this game on Twitter. It looks like it might be really cute. I have no idea. It might be really bad. I don't know. I think it'll be good though. Oh, I need to do an announcement really quick. I'll do an announcement in Discord. I won't tell them what it is though, because I'm not sure if I'll be playing this long term or not. I'm gonna try it and see. Because I saw it and I was like, this looks adorable. It's really cute. Okay. I guess I'm gonna, oops, let me set the OBS in the right place. We're gonna go on an adventure. And I'm going to use controller. I have to turn it on because it keeps disconnecting. Are we good now? Wait, what? I gotta click on the window. That helps when I click on the window, right? Okay, well, we have power. Why is it delayed? It feels delayed. Wait, what's happening? Uh-oh. Controller, I have questions. Why are you not working half the time? Okay, I'm gonna try this again. I shouldn't push that. I can use my keyboard, worst case scenario. This is like a Sony controller I'm using. Is it not picking up because I can't see it? Wait, that's not how Bluetooth works. Bluetooth is not supposed to be based on the Bluetooth device. Bluetooth is all inside. Oh my gosh, another tech stream, basically. Well, it's working right now. Oh, Strawberry. Let's try this. I mean, I just yelled at you. Hello, I can do ASMR talking. You want me to do ASMR talking? Like, I'll just talk really silent or soft. Let's go into new game, okay? We're gonna go into new game. I have no idea what this is or how to play this. I just downloaded it right now. Let's go. I got you. Got your tweet. Thank you. Thank you, Strawberry. See my mouse cursor. Can I move that to the side? You can't see. You can see my mouse cursor? Oh, you can. Uh-oh. I'll put it off the screen. Cool. Oh my goodness. Ooh. The Underriver. What manner of vermin lurk beneath our feet? Probably adorable. Oh, that is adorable. Oh, it's a cute little mouse. I think it's a mouse, right? Because a rat would be bigger. Come on, Verm. It's Verm? Keep up. Why is Verm naked? Looks like a puzzle game? It might be, I have no idea. I'm doing my best, Lance. But your legs are twice the size of mine. No, they don't look twice the size. Lance says, oh, this won't do at all. Here's an idea. Why don't you take the lead for a bit? Verm says, you think I'm ready? Lance says, I have no doubt. Control access, never mind. I might switch the keyboard eventually. Lance says, according to Dad's letter, we just follow the arrows. Let me make sure the audio isn't too loud. Because it's like super loud, isn't it? Wait, where is it? There it is. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. The music is nice too. I like it. Dun, 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 dun. Yes. Okay, here we go. I think I'm good now. I had to click on this to make it know that I'm... Oh wait, I gotta push buttons. Oh, okay. Lance says, they point the way to the God's food hoard. I know where that is, actually. It's behind probably a Pizza Hut, or Taco Bell, or McDonald's. Nigel Hot Dog, you didn't have to do that.
Nigel Hot Dog
But I'm glad
just
you did.
resubscribed for 11 months.
Thank you, Nigel Hot Dog, for using your Prime subscription and being subscribed for 11 long months. Thank you so much for that. Lance says, so just keep following the path. We should hit it in no time. Verm says, all right, I can do this. Oh, Verm has a cape. That's cute. Verm says, stay on my tail, bro. Bra, stay on my tail. Oh, I get to move. I get to move as an actual mouse. Oh, can I read that? Yeah, I want to read it. Mouse Warrior Pro Tip. Hold X, so where's the X button? Hold X to run, press C to open the menu. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It doesn't have lemon squeezy, but I added that because sometimes I hear people say that. Where's the C button? Excuse me, I don't have a C button because this is not the same controller, but we'll figure this out. Let's see here. Is it this button? It would be the square button. Oh, there's equipment. What kind of... It's like an RPG. It's just like a... So far, I'm loving this. Okay, what is the skill stuff? I love the skill. It's... I don't know what those are called, but it's like a place where you choose things, and it's like a... I don't know how to explain that. Novice Hero. Vermin's still growing, but he aspires to be a great swordsman one day. You mean swords mouse? What are you? Archer. Lance takes down foes with a quiver. I don't know how to say that word. Of trick arrows. Hi Ziggbee. Hello Paige Mustang. Welcome. Welcome to my bonus secret stream. I'm gonna play a game I just started. I don't know anything about it. Wait, why does this person have... They already have stuff. What is the stuff they have already? I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted easily. Lance takes down foes. Oh, that's what it says. Increase heart, which I assume is health. That one must be attack, and that was probably defense. I would assume sometimes blue is usually defense. That's not quite a shield icon, but pretty close. We'll go back. Don't mind Verm. Verm's naked for the time being. What's this? Trinkets. I have no trinkets, and the rest is obvious options. And we can quit the game. Continue our adventure. Alex, I might turn the audio up a little bit higher. I want to be loud. Wait, does it make it louder for you too? No, it doesn't. Good. I don't want to blast everyone's ears. Looks so cute. It is very cute. Who's this person sticking their tongue out at me? How rude. Oh, hello, Ox. Just Tony Ox. Hello. I'm just joking about the rude part. I say silly things. Strawberry wine. OMG, I love this kind of game. I don't know what it is yet. Oh, there's treasure up there. Get that. You better get that. Okay. There's a... Oh. I go up on the pipe. Where do we get the pipe at? Wait. Verm says, what a weird bridge. It's made from toothpick. Those aren't toothpicks. What are those? Tongue depressors. Tongue depression. I don't know. That's a doctors use that sometimes. They don't use it anymore, though. I haven't seen a doctor use that in a while. Maybe it was during the 90s and 80s they would use them sometimes. Paige says in the chat, yeah, this is going to be the coziest stream for my bedtime. Well, Paige Mustang, I hope you're getting real cozy with some nice blankets and some pillows. Maybe have some nice water. I always like to have like a bottle or something of water on the side of the bed in case I need little sips of water, because that's nice. So perhaps popsicle sticks. Thank you. That's what actually, yeah, you're right. That's popsicle sticks. The best I could come up with at the moment was tongue depressor to depression, whatever. You can make things out of them too. Lance says, looks like Underriver. Wait. Oh, Underriver rat handiwork. It's crude, but it should hold. Okay, are we friends with the Underriver rats? I hope so. Underriver rats, says Vermin, the naked mouse. Verm says, do you think there are any around here now? Lance says, it's possible. We didn't bring our weapons just for show. Uh-oh, sounds like they have a conflict with the rats. Are you scared? Asked Lance. And I get to choose the answer for Verm. I guess I'm Verm. Or Verm. Yes, Verm. What's going on in the chat now? Yeah, that sets the scene so beautifully, Ziggbee. You're welcome. You know, I ate way too much tonight. Before I took a break after my stream a while ago, right? I had some banana and M&Ms. First, let me tell you, don't mix bananas and M&Ms. They don't taste good. So I ate the bananas first, and then I ate the M&Ms, and then I had decaf coffee with some honey and some almond milk. And you might be asking, decaf? Yes, because it's late at night and I need to eventually sleep. Hey, what am I doing? Oh, I got to make a choice. Am I scared? I'm gonna say a little, because we need character progression, okay? You need to like be scared at first and we'll get braver as time progresses. Verm says, maybe a little. Len says, that's okay. There's no shame feeling fear. All mice feel it, because we're prey animals. No, it didn't say that last part, but I added that because, yeah. Oh, this is so lovely. Yes, it is, Paige. I'm loving it so far. Yummy. Thank you, Just Tony. X's and O's, I assume hugs and kisses. Is that what's, or does you mean ox? No, you probably wouldn't mean ox because on the last part of your name you have XO, so it's like decorations. Paige says, I'm still feeling that Starbucks I got before Billy's stream. Hopefully in a good way, Paige Mustang. What do you mean by feeling it? It's not bothering your stomach, or hopefully not. Hopefully it's a good feeling. Lance says that's okay. I haven't read these twice. There's no shame feeling fear. All mice feel it. Verm says, all mice? Question mark? Even Blade Master Leo? Hold up. There's a character named Leo. Hello? Somebody wake up Werewolf Billy. There's a character named Leo. Okay, I'm just joking. Don't wake up Werewolf Billy. But that is pretty cool though. For those of you that don't know, Werewolf Billy's name is Leo. Don't worry, I think I can say that because they tell it publicly on their stream, I think, and stuff. It doesn't work that way, Paige. I'm just joking. Don't at them for real. Don't at them. They need to sleep probably and rest. They work tomorrow and the next day, from what they said, I believe. Leo, the Blade Master. I should actually ask Werewolf Billy if he is a Blade Master. Lance says, even Leo. Verm says, ha, no way. A little bit of doubt there. It's Sky, the fox. Hello, Sky. Fox noises. How you doing, Sky? Thank you for joining me again. Paige, he has mastered the blade. Hi, Sky. Yeah, actually, Leo Werewolf Billy has mastered quite a few things in life. I'm not sure if a blade master is one of them, but I wouldn't be surprised. Strawberry wine. And today he took out plastic swords in his stream. Are you joking? Are you serious? That's like weird, suspicious coincidence. There's always coincidences that happen in life. It's very sus when they happen. Just Tony. Hi. Thank you, Tony, for being nice and greeting other people and chat. That's nice of you to do. Paige Mustang. LOL. I missed that part. Strawberry. I did too, actually. I missed that part. And again, I was driving around a car. No, just listening. I was being safe. All right? When I typed in chat, the car was parked. Oh my gosh. Wait, should I just run? Don't. Okay. Oh my gosh, that's a little scary. I see the pipe. I need to go on to get treasure. I'm gonna get treasure. I like treasure. Can I go in the water? I don't want to go in the water, but I'm just testing my limits in this reality. There's the answer. I got coughs again. There's the answer. We go back down here to get treasure. Oh, please be good treasure. I love treasure. A peanut? Oh, to a mouse, that is pretty awesome treasure. You found a peanut. Nutritious, unless you're allergic to peanuts. So don't mess with peanuts. That's dangerous if you're allergic. But mice are probably not allergic to peanuts. Verm, has anyone been to a pet store? I know it's terrible to get pets from pet stores because they're not good. But it's so much fun to look at the little rodents. Like, I like to look at the hamsters sometimes and the mice. They're so cute. You're like, oh, they're all kind of cute. Sometimes I look at the birds. Never mind, I'm getting distracted. But they're cute. They're very cute. I should go to a pet store again sometime. Verm says, hey, Lance, check it out. Someone stashed a peanut who was probably a squirrel. Squirrels do that kind of stuff. Lance says, nice find. Maybe you should hold on to it in case you feel weak. What? Lance says, but don't get too full. Well, Lance, let me tell you, I'm already pretty full. I had some banana and some M&Ms and some coffee and just some Taco Bell recently too, and I had some Pepsi and yeah, I'm out of control with eating. Guy says Beans is my fox. I'm Sky here. Wait, what? Beans is my fox. I'm Sky here. Okay, Sky. I hope you're doing good. What? I missed the. Oh wait, wait. Page 1 says I worked at a pet store for 6 years. I had so many hamsters. LOL. It really is impossible to resist. Oh, it is. They're so cute. I think my favorite ones to look at are. I like the dwarf ones. They're kind of cute. Like dwarf ones are the what's it called? Winter whites. They're sometimes called, or Russian dwarf hamsters. I don't know if they're different or not, or there might just be fancy names. Fancy mice are cool too, which are basically just domesticated mice for the most part that look cool patterns sometimes. Hey Ziggbee, I think the game volume is too. Oh, sorry. You're probably right. Let me fix that for you. I go a little bit down because it is getting into the red. Thank you for telling me, Paige. I appreciate that you make the stream better when you tell me these kind of things. Yes, I love dwarf hamsters. I had at least 5 over the years. That's a lot. Okay, I don't mean this to be sad or anything, but okay, I gotta share it though, right? It's reality. They don't live very long. It's kind of sad, but I guess that's how it is. But yeah, so it makes sense. You can have quite a few when you live super long, super long. Yeah, 3 years is about max. Yeah, they typically say like around 2 years or 1 to 2 years. Yeah, but 3 years would be amazing. They're so cute though. Never mind. I'm not gonna ramble about hamsters forever. There'll be, let's see. Lance says there'll be plenty more food where we're headed. Yeah, you're headed to a food horde, which is exciting. My controller loses connection sometimes. I want to use a control. Can I connect the controller into the computer? Hold, please, everybody. Controller, you need to work with me here. The problem is I'm rambling too much, and I think the controller's like disconnecting. Let me try to use the keyboard. Press Z. Oh no, I need to push the window. Sorry. Okay. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, there we go. Verm says I can almost smell it. What do you smell, Verm? Trash? There is lots of food in trash. You know humans are very wasteful of food, especially the States. Mouse Warrior Pro Tip. Items can be equipped from the equip menu. Once a food item has been equipped, it can be used once per battle. Oh, it's reusable. That doesn't even make sense, but I'll take it. Because that would mean like I can have equip. It would be greedy if I give myself the... Well, who's weaker? Like, who needs protection? We have... I probably do need protection because it looks like Lance has 12 health and I have 8. So I'll take the peanut to have something to get some heals in case. It'd be cool if I can heal Lance as well. I don't know if that's the case though. Hello, Sandman. What is that abomination? I mean, that adorable double-headed ferret thing you made. That is adorable. I wish I could play. These look like they're no good because they're dressed like pirates. cartoon looking pirates. Brie, that's the name of a cheese, I believe. What's the name of a cheese? Brie says, "Not another step, you two." You'll really have a dance off. Brie says, "Or else you'll have to face the combined wrath of Brie and..." Suspense for the next name. Hey, Art Boy. Is that their name? Bree says, "We've got company. Get with the program." What's that? Stilton. Stilton almost sounds like Rumpelstiltskin? There's no, that's not how you spell Rumpelstiltskin, right? The last part? That's Stilton. Wait, Stilton. I think it's just Stilton. Oh, Stilton's mad, so mad it threw their art chalk over the wall into the void of darkness. This is serious business, everybody. Stilton says, not another step, you two, or else you'll have to. Bree says, we're done that part already. Lance says, rest assured, sirs, we will make no trouble. Lance says, my brother and I are just passing through. Bree shakes their head. But I saw them shake their head. Bree says, ain't that easy? This is a troll road, you see. What? Verm says, don't you mean a toll road? Stilton says, a little bit of both. A little bit of both, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm sorry, Sandman. Was that offensive? I hope that wasn't offensive, was it? Like the cheese. Exactly, Sandman, like the cheese. A little bit of both. Bloody hell. I'm gonna cough again. Haha, Stilton is so yeah, it's human. Well, they're kind of adorable. Well, actually, they're all adorable. What is this guy saying? Yeah, they're a brat, though all she wants is food. She will attack my ankles. Whoa, what are we attacking ankles for? I think I missed the context there. Oh, that's so fun. She has a personality, lol. Perfect accent. Oh, thank you, Sandman. I can only do it sometimes for very short, little bits of, I don't know. Where am I? Oh, Bree says, it's 10 seeds each pass. Pay up. I'm actually, Sam, did you know this is actually in the sewers of the UK, I believe. I read a little blurb about the game, just a very slight one from Steam. So they should have like UK accents. UK, yeah, they should have some accents like that, but I can't do it very good. I gotta make a choice. Okay, no way. I'm gonna say no way because I don't know. Verm says, we're not paying you, flea-bitten losers, diddly squat. Well, that was some hard language, Verm. I'm about to censor this stuff. Lance says, now, Verm, let's show some decorum. See, Lance has a little bit of chill. Apparently my character does not. I go immediately to the insults and I assume this is equivalent of swearing that he was doing. Lance says, sirs, I'm afraid my brother and I have no seeds on our persons. Lance says, perhaps you'll be so kind as to let us through anyway. Bree, like the cheese, says, no seeds, huh? Bree says, do you smell that, Stilton? Stilton says, I think I do, Bree. It's the smell of a liar. You're a liar. No, literally, I checked my inventory. I just have a peanut. I literally have why would they take a peanut? They might take a peanut. That's a seed. That's a double seed for one. Because there's 2 peanuts in the seed, I think. Or maybe 3, I don't know. Bree says, let's gut these 2. Oh my gosh. And scrounge, what is that word? And scrounge the seeds from their corpses. Okay, that got really dark, Bree. Wow, what is this? Oh, this is cool. Oh, this is getting serious. Is this like Final Fantasy? What's going on here? Lance says, just remember, you're trading, Verm. I blacked out, Lance. I have no... Did you trend me something? Because I just got here. Verm says, attack them until they fall down. That is how you fight, I think. That is how you fight. Lance says, exactly. What do I have to do? Defend. What does defend do? Reduces damage taken. Attack. Attack an enemy, and I can use an item, looks like. We will do attack. And I have the ability of swipe. And I can choose a character. Can I see their health? I don't think I can see their health, so I'm not sure which one is stronger. Well, the one with the knife seems more threatening at the moment because Bree has his hands in his pocket. So let's go for Stilton. We shall do attack as well. Looks like Lance has more attacks. Mega Shot and Quick Shot. Mega Shot deals heavy piercing damage and deals piercing damage. Oh, I see. So the little diamond shapes are how many, like, almost like magic or stamina that you can use. So I'm gonna use the most powerful attack. Whoa! Oh my gosh. Whoa! Did you see that? Bree only did 1 damage, so I was right in my assessment. I am so amazing. No, just kidding. But no, for real. Silton hit harder than Bree. So we're gonna continue to attack Stilton. No, Stilton! I didn't really want. Hopefully, I don't like destroy them. Give up. We're winning. Okay, how many? Do I have enough for this? There you go. Beehole! 1 damage. Slow down there. I think I got this. Whee! Actually, he probably has. Oh, he might have a lot of health. So the other one did a lot of damage. This one has a lot of health. I see. Whoa, I can fly? No, just kidding. It was like a freeze frame. Bree says, "You little runts, Chief Saga will have your heads for this." And Silton says, "Yeah, save the Slayer." Wait, what? Wait, let me read that again. Silton says, "Yeah." Oh, Saba? That's not safe. Saba, the Slayer, will chop you into mouse meat. It's not very much meat. We're kind of small. Lance says, "Saba, the Slayer? Maybe the tale is true." Verm says, "What tale?" Lance says, "Word in the tumbles." I make up words sometimes. Word in the tunnels is that a water, what is that? Vole? Fell into the under river 4 seasons ago. What is a vole? Does anyone know what a vole is? I'm gonna have to Google that, okay? Google, what is a vole? Oh, it's like a voles are small rodents that are relatives of lemmings and hamsters, but with a shorter, stouter body, a longer, hairy tail. Okay, cool. So it's like almost like a hamster kind of vibe. Vole is a type of vermin. Yes, it is, Paige. Yes, it is. I'm sorry, I read your comments a little bit late. What is this? Ads coming? Ads are coming, so brace yourselves, everybody. Okay, sorry, I need to read this. Lance, word in the tunnels is that a water vole, did I say it right? Vole? Fell into the under river 4 seasons ago. 4 seasons ago. I don't know why I read it like that. Oh, I just Googled it. So cute. Yeah, they're kind of cute. Paige. Yeah, the picture from Google. Lance says he grew fat on the water waste. That's kind of gross. What do you mean? Is this eating what? The dirty water? What's Lance says so fat that the underriver rats started worshiping him as a chieftain. Some say that he's as big as a horse. Okay, that's ridiculous. And that he swings around god weapons like they're nothing. Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm fascinated what these god weapons are. Are they like human weapons? Verm says, that can't be true. No rodent can grow that big, right? Lance says, who can say? Lance says, I always thought he was a myth. Just like ghosts and mouse wolves. Well, those are both real. Ghosts are real, and so are moose wolves. Those are both very real. Verm says, right. Just ghosts and mouse wolves? Lance says, let's go find out. Let's go find. First, I'm gonna look at this beautiful art. Oh, very nice. See, they're like kind of pirates because they're on a ship. It's a story. It's telling a story. They rowed a boat. They fell off the boat and they were like, oh no! And then they found land and then, oh, that's the story of the Slayer, perhaps. The Slayer. And then the Slayer found a god weapon and the Slayer got really fat and then like started fighting all the rodents and won. I don't like that story. That's kind of a sad story. And then there's this cool S symbol that people do in school when they're young and think it's amazing for some reason. I don't understand. Let's continue on the adventures. Whoa, what is this? Page Mustang. gonna have to do that, Paige Mustang.
Just resubscribed for 11 months.
Thank you, Paige Mustang, for our being subscribed to Tier 1 for a total of 11 months and on a 6-month streak. Thank you, Paige Mustang. No ads for Paige, everybody. No ads for Paige. And you can get no ads too for the low price of whatever Twitch charges for. I don't know how much I charge for. Thank you, Paige. Tatum pancakes. Oh, this is so cute. Where did you come from, Tatum? You just right now gonna talk? You're not gonna talk at the beginning? Let me know you're here. That's fine. That's cool. Wait, how do I get past it? Oh, that I was like, how am I gonna pass this pipe? But it's like 2D isometric things are kind of confusing sometimes. Dun 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 dun. Bum 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 bum. What is this? This is amazing. Lance says, look, Verm, it's a shrine to your hero. Verm says, whoa, Blade Master Leo. Well, Blade Master Leo looks awesome. Verm says, what's a statue doing down here? I have that question too. I didn't know mice knew how to do bronze work. Perhaps the Underriver scoundrels built it. Wait, what? Scoundrels? That sounds like a bad name to be calling. What? Lance says even they know to respect the power of the crown. Oh, maybe I read that wrong. Like maybe he was asking why they don't destroy it. Verm says no way, they must have looted it. Lance says I guess that's more likely. Lance says in any case we should ask a quick prayer. We should say a quick prayer for protection. Mouse Warrior pro tip: to save your game, say a prayer at a statue. Smart warriors pray regularly. Let's go pray, everybody. Let's pray to Leo. Oh, great Leo Blade Master, save my game. It's a copper statue of a field mouse wielding a needle-like reaper. The plaque reads, in honor of Blade Master Leo, slayer of Iron Fang, the Vulpes? I don't know what that is either. Savior of Soul Hill Village. And hero to all. Except for those he defeats. Blade Master Leo stands proud. Save your game? Yes, please. Your game has been saved. Thank you. Statue of Leo, Blade Master, hero to all. Let's go ahead. Is there any secrets over here? Let me just make sure. Secret passages? I don't know if they actually do like hidden things in this game or not. We'll continue though on the pipes. I got some snacks and blankets. All ready for cozy night. That's the way to go. Thank you, Just Tony. I hope you enjoy your cozy night with myself and all the other beans that just have the time to join me tonight in this cute little game. Am I on the right pipe? I think so. And I go under this pipe? Yeah. And then over here. Uh-oh. This is a warning sign. Well, I can actually literally see them over there. But this is a warning sign saying, stay out, rats. That's what that sign means. You're surrounded by... I'm sorry, I'm too excited. You're surrounded by stuffed animals. It's adorable. I have a couple stuffed animals, too. It's nice to have them around for comfort. Uh-oh. Is that the vole in the back, or is that someone else? Bree says, oi! Oi, chief! Oi! They're here! Whoa, they shake the ground and they have a pirate hat. Saga says, 2 mice? Rats, I could understand ye telling me you had ye arses kicked by 2 wielded mice. Stilton says, don't underestimate them, Chief. The big one's a scary good shot with the bow. Bree says, and that little one got some fancy sword work going on. Saba says, pathetic, the both of you. Get in my belly. No, you know the references from Austin Powers. Anyways, Saba says, I'll deal with these runs myself. Lance says, Chief Sava, I presume. It's a pleasure to meet you in person. Verm says, what a letdown. You said he was as big as a horse, Lance. Lance says, Vermin. Oh, no, Verm said, Lance said, Verm, mind your manners. Ha, says Zava. Quite a smart tongue you got there, little one. I bet it won't be so smart when I cut it from your mouth. Wow! Watch out, he has a, what is that called? Is that called, that's not called a safety, what is it called, a Swiss Army knife? Is that a god weapon? Lance says, so, it's true. You do possess a god weapon. Answer my question. Zava says, I say hello to the Titan Reaper. This butte can cut through all creatures great and small. Mice and rats, fish and... What's that? Fieldises? I don't know how to say that. I even brought down a Nightwing one time. What's a Nightwing? Verm says, Lance, what we do... Wait, what? Wait, Lance says, what do we do? Lance says, keep your nerve, Verm. The Vial talks big and carries an impressive weapon. But I wonder, can he even swing something so unwieldy? Sava says, can I? Heck, I'm gonna carve you up like butter. Whoa! What kind of butter? Like fridge butter, or is butter that's been out for a while? Because fridge butter's hard to cut. So, yeah, think about that for 5 seconds. Bam! Mega shot! Thank you, Paige. Fridge butter's so hard to cut. It's like impossible to spread that butter on like toast and stuff. There we go. Pro tip, put the butter in the microwave for a few seconds. Well, not all the butter, just the butter you're gonna use, I guess. Well, that's what I do anyway. Quick shot. Sava says, come at me. You flea-bitten yellow-bellied losers. That's language. Lance says, don't take the bait, Verm. It has a golden tooth. How, they have dentistry? I should use a more powerful attack. I had enough, I think. Sava says, fools! You dropped your guard. Oh, this could be bad. Oh! Behold, we were attacked by a god weapon. I have no idea how much health they have. Mega attack? Yeah, let's do mega attack. Bam! Oh, that's... Oh my gosh! Wait, whoa. I just got defeated. Well, Verm did. That's not good. Oh, maybe I should have defended, so I shouldn't be offensive like non-stop. Was he telegraphing his attack? Probably. Sava says, go on, hit me. See what happens. Should I defend? Wait, can I? Well, I have so many questions. I can't use an item. Should I defend? What should I do? Oh yeah, he probably has special dialogue before you for the turn you block. Yeah, I need to figure out what that is. Should I defend though? I'm afraid like if I attack it's gonna do something bad. I'll attack and find out what happens. Did they punish me for it? Oh, this guy gets defeated. It was bluffing. He was bluffing the whole time. Sava. Oh, Sava doesn't look so great. Stilton. Sava's down? Bree says, let's get out of here. They scurry away like rats. Wait, they actually are rats. Sava says, get back here. You darned disloyal gutter rats. You're in the sewers, sir. Lance says, you lost a lot of blood, Chief. Make your peace with the world. Sava says, oh, I love... Wait, where did I get love from? Sava says, oh, I've long made my peace. Lance says, very well then. This is where we part ways. Come along, Verm. Sava says, hey, you're going up to heaven, aren't you? That is heaven, right? Heaven? Sava says, the gods' food hoard just above here. We are? Sava says, then from one foul vermin to another. Don't bother. The place used to be paradise, but now the yellow gold roams the hall. Wait, what? But now the yellow god roams the hall. Oh, I know what the yellow god is. Sava says, all that awaits you is death. No! Okay. Lance says, farewell, chief. May your soul pass to the next world unhindered. Listen, it's hard life. This is a hard life in the sewers, everybody. Worm says, Lance, what's a yellow god? Lance says, that's a new one to me, but don't let it bug you, Worm. Lance says, in all my travels, I've never seen or heard of any deadly yellow god. It's, what? It's the crazed muttering of a dying rodent. Okay, what am I looking at here? Oh, Lance says, just ghosts and mouse wolves. Worm says, right, just ghosts and mouse wolves. I want to see a mouse wolf, actually. Can I have one in my party? That'd be pretty cool. Lance says, let's keep moving. We're almost at the horde. Can we take this? Lance says, Worm, what are you doing? Look at this thing. It's amazing. It's so big. Worm says, it is quite a weapon. Worm says, I'm taking it with me. Lance says, forget it, Worm. Getting food is a much higher priority than collecting some fancy god relic. Are you kidding me? Listen, everybody, listen. If you got a choice between a god relic or some food, what are you gonna pick? I'm gonna tell you, food. Tatum. Okay, Tatum has a different opinion than I have. I would choose the god relic. Okay, god relic. Come on, it's obvious. Come on. Worm says, yeah, I guess you're right. No, Worm, grab it. Worm says, but do you think a mouse could ever use a weapon like this? Lance says, maybe the strongest mouse in the world. Or the craziest. That's a lot of words there, Lance. Lance says, come on, we have a mission. Lance, you're not being supportive of my dreams. We need to have a talk about being supportive and not hurting other people's dreams and stuff. So yeah, we should probably talk about that. Mouse Warrior pro tip: feeling stronger? You might have just leveled up. When a rodent levels up, they gain a star, a skill star. Skill stars can be spent in the skill menu. Go take a look. Okay. It does have a star there. Do they have a star? Wait, oh, they do have a star. Okay. So I can only choose this path currently, so it'll make them a little bit stronger. Oops. And then we'll do here. Do you have a star? You do have a star. I can make a choice. Do I want to give... What's this over here? Defending recovers an extra... Oh, that's cool. What does this do? Increase... What does this do? Lance gains 5 seeds when he wins a battle. What is 5 seeds? Oh, I think that's money. I want that. Lance is going to make us bank. Okay. Lance, I like your abilities if you do make money from winning battles. What's in the chest? You found a treasure map. You add it to your trinkets. What does it do? Do I have to equip it? Oh, wait. And we... What do we... what? Huh? Is it an item? Trinkets. There we go. My treasure is yours for the taking, but you'll have to find it first. Since I have 5 seeds in my wallet. I have seeds in my wallet. Lance says, this is it. Brace yourselves firm. Okay. Ready. Salted pistachio? I actually had some salted pistachios. They're so good. Oh, you mix it with M&M's are good too. Hands beans? Heaven. Treat? No, tread softly. I want to give up rats and mice treats all day. Random thoughts. Hands peas. Whoa, says Vern. Lance says, beautiful, isn't it? Nah, if we only had a can opener. No, just kidding. Lance says, fruit, grain, meat, items I can't even describe. All neatly wrapped and ours for the taking. But we mustn't dwell. Dad's letter says that the horde is overrun with hungry gods at dawn. Firm says, oh boy. Wait, can I say like, I'm gonna say it like that. Oh boy, what should we start with? Firm says, corn? Let's buy some corn, cause it's got the juice. And bananas. And bread. Oh, Verm. How about bread with butter? I'm adding things. They're not saying that. Verm says, and it's that chocolate. Wait, what? And is that chocolate that I smell? Lance says, calm down, Verm. It's seeds we want. Verm says, seeds? How boring. Lance says, boring, yes, but they're valuable and imperishable. So is honey. Lance, honey is imperishable. If you guys get a freeze dryer and maybe freeze dry stuff and put it in some jars and put a moisture thing, you can probably keep it for like 50 years or something like that. I kind of want a freeze dryer, but they're, you know how much they cost? It costs like $3,000. Anyways, Lance, lead the way. I think they're stored at the end of this corridor. Okay. Can I walk around a little bit? Wait, which way? Okay, it's this way. You can only go one way. Paige Mustang says, this reminds me of a Hamtaro game I played where they ran around a grocery store. Hamtaro! I think I remember seeing like that anime a couple times. Not very often though. She's not doing those big breaths because I'm gonna cough. I see the pound symbol. I mean like the British pounds. British pound, that's 9 quid. See, I know quid. Look at that, it's Warhols. Actually, that's a little bit of an inside joke, I think. Andy Warhol, I think did the art for the Campbell soup. That's why it's called Warhols. Warhol's classic tomato soup. And actually, Warhol did actually make the Campbell tomato soup graphic or something. From my understanding, enchiladas. Wait, what? Just Tony. Chopped tomatoes. Oh, sorry, Lance is saying something. Verm, wait. Verm, what? I think I read that wrong. Mousetraps. Lance says, I've seen those before. They're sinister contraptions. One wrong step and blam. The bar comes down and snaps your neck in two. Lance says, Dad called them thunder snares. Verm says, are you serious? Verm says, they look so harmless. Lance says, don't even touch them. Let's tread lightly. How do I avoid them? Just walk around them? Okay, I don't know how to avoid, It actually scared me a little bit. Because I couldn't tell the depth that well, because it's like 2D and 3D. 2.5D to be precise. Verm says, Lance, who made the thunder snare things? Gods? Yes, Lance. I mean, yes, Verm. Lance says, indeed, and they were probably left out as a warning. Verm says, a warning for us? Lance says, we are trespassing on holy ground after all. Lance says, are you scared? I'm gonna say a little again, and maybe if they ask me again, I'll be like a little bit braver. I'm gonna say a little. Verm says a little. Lance says, me too. Lance is even afraid. And Lance is supposed to be brave, right? Lance says, but we have each other's backs. That's what family's for, right? Verm says, yep, we stick together. I think I can almost smell the seeds. Then lead the way, says Lance. But there's corn. It's green gnome corn. I don't know the joke of that. I don't know if that's a joke. Ziggy's? Ziggy's what? Do you see the upper left-hand corner? Ziggy's. Ziggy's tomatoes. Have you ever tried my Ziggbee tomato sauce? It's chef kiss delicious. There's seeds, salted pistachio nuts. Ooh, organic sunflower seeds. They're not normal sunflower seeds with poison all over them. These are organic, which are probably sun seeds where the poison was washed off and then stamped with the word organic. Lance says, this is what we want. There are enough seeds in one packet to feed the village for only a month. Hold up. How many? I mean, a month's a long time, but... okay, I don't know why that's bothering me. Out of all the things we've seen so far, that one thing's bothering me. Lance says, help me drag it down. The bag comes down with a gentle tug. I don't know how we're supposed to carry a whole bag, because there's no way you can carry that. Verm says, it's huge! How are we going to get it back past the thunder snares? Lance says, we'll solve that problem when we get there. For now, just help me drag it towards the underriver. I'll pull, you go around the other side and push. Verm, got it. Oh, I have to move I actually have to move the character. Lance says, are you ready? And I'm gonna say, let's do this. Let's do this. Lance, that's a spirit. All right, when I give the signal, give the packet a big shove to the left. Small. No, they're not rats. Small, listen, they're not rats. These are mice, okay? Then we had a little bit of a meeting with some rats, and they were kind of aggressive, and we fought them, but they're gone now. And we killed their chieftain, which was not a rat. It was a vole, which is in the family of a lemming or something. And yeah, no, Small, not rats. They're mice. They're mice. Let's go to the same page, Small. No, Small, they're not rats. Verm says, do you smell something? There's lots of smells in the store. Sam hit Small and I have stopped punching each other now so we can give full attention. That's, is that something UK people do or something for fun? I don't know what I'm just joking. You're playing party animals. Lance says, you and your nose. Try to focus, Verm. The Lance. Oh, my mark. Oh, on my mark. You know, I can sometimes read everybody. No, but seriously, how do we get past the mousetrap? Verm says, it smells sweet. Not good sweet, though. Lance says, I'm getting a whiff, too. It's sickly. What? Verm says, what do we do? Lance says, we stick to the mission. On my mark. No, please don't. Please don't. I don't want to see Lance get trapped. That would be very sad. Verm says, Lance, I feel dizzy. Oh, there's gas around them. Wait, why would there be gas in the store? What? Lance says, oh dear, can you keep going? Verm says, I think so, but the smell is really strong. I think it's coming from... Verm, is that? Lance, behind the bag now. Is that a god? Oh, jump scare. Is this Breaking Bad? What are we cooking? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Illegal stuff is happening at the store. Where's Jesse? Verm says, did it see us? Lance says, we need to get out of here now. Verm says, what about the seeds? Lance says, forget the seeds, run! I guess I shouldn't breathe heavy because apparently they're gassing the entire store. Is that normal? Oh gosh. Ah! What happened? Run, Verm! Oh, hello, hole digger. Welcome. Run! Oh no! Oh my gosh. No. Ah! Lance, Verm, oh no. Verm says, Lance, it hurts. Lance says, hold on, don't move. Lance says, alright. Stay calm. It's just your tail. Thank the fates. We can get you out of this. Vermin says, right. Here's what we're going to do, says Lance. I'm going to lift the bar, and you're going to squeeze out. A Verm? Squeeze out? Lance says, I know you can do it. When I get this signal, just push as hard as you can. On my mark. Come on, push more. Verm, push harder. Come on. Do it harder. No, come on, Verm. Come on, don't lose your don't cut the tail off. Lance, listen to me. Don't cut the tail. Oh my, they're gonna cut the tail. I can't. I'm not doing anything yet because I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna cut the tail. Please don't cut the tail. Okay. Lance, are you pulling? Verm, yes. Let's try again, Lance says. All your might now. Please, Verm, you gotta pull it out. Verm, please, 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 please pull it out. Please, this is not chill. Small says this is not chill. You gotta pull it out. You can't. This is gonna get dark, everybody. Listen, if you need to back away, you might want to go away for a little bit, okay? Maybe not watch the stream because I think things are gonna get dark really quick, okay? Oh my gosh. Oh no. Okay. I'm hoping he can save his tail though. Lance says this isn't working. No, Lance. Come on, Lance. Come on, game developers. You got to do this. You got to. What does this say, Small? I'm shocked this isn't woke. Bossman. What? What are you talking about? Damn it, Beans. This is gonna give me nightmares. Don't damn it, Beans. Don't watch. Oh my gosh. I'm supposed to make this a cute game. I'm looking for a cute game to play. Should I just end the stream? Should I cut the stream? Be honest with me. Should I cut the stream? This is Bossman. Got this. Wait, what? Oh dear. No? Small says no, though. Tammy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Lance says again. And we're running out of time. I'll stall the god. You find a way to get yourself free. Lance, you are. Oh, you're gonna set me up for this, aren't you? Verm. Lance, no! Oh my gosh, this is gonna get dark. This is gonna be like Adventure Time dark. Did Finn in Adventure Time do this? Did Finn cut his tail off? Oh my god. I hopefully have that. Do they have healing magic? I hope they have healing magic. Verm says, Lance. Oh. Verm says, don't go, I'm scared. Oh, this is kind of sad, everybody. This is kind of sad. It's okay though. Sometimes there's sad things that happen. It's what we do in response to them that matters. Lance, over here, you monster. Oh, wait, no, that's not, I read that completely wrong. Lance says, over here, you monster. Oh my gosh. It's Heisenberg. Lance says, darn it all. Okay. Use your most powerful attack, Lance. That's the best way to get their attention. If that's what your goal is, I will help you accomplish that. Jesse, we need to cook. Maybe if I yell out something. Can I trick them? Oh, the cops are coming. And then I'll be like, oh, we gotta get out of here. Lance says, hey, you over here. Look at me. And Lance, it didn't work. Lance, that was your strongest attack. Try again, Lance. 0 damage. Lance said, I said, look at me. Come on. Oh, no. Should I do something else? Defending would do nothing. Try again. That seemed to work. Lance. I got this. I got its attention. Okay. Lance, what I'm gonna need you to do is run. I would choose that option for you. Now dance. That's actually not a bad idea, Sandman, because in the Wild Kingdom, when you jump around and do like a war dance and stuff, sometimes it confuses other animals, so it actually would be beneficial. Exactly, Paige. I would choose that option, but we do not have the dance ability yet. So I'm going to defend because I don't think attacking will, I don't know if anything will do any good, honestly. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna continue to defend. I am the distraction, right? Keep defending. Show it that I mean no harm. And I'm just a mouse. Actually, it doesn't make sense. If they're exterminators, they're gonna try to kill me, right? Sandman says they'll be like, it's so cute, don't want to kill. Okay, good point. Good point. No, small. I like Sandman's idea. Maybe I can reach their heart and they can rethink the ways of their life, or at least care about me enough to give a Verm enough time to escape. I'm just gonna keep doing this. Oh, come on. It's working, right? Can I do this forever? Because technically this is giving them time. Developers, please tell me you made it so you could do this for real. Please tell me you added this for real. Oh, this doesn't look good, everybody. No mercy. I don't think this is gonna work. I wish it did though, so bad. I'll do it 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. No, the game's giving me, I don't like this about the game so far. I have a little critique. I would like more options. Okay, more outcomes. Might need to tickle him a little bit. Okay. Go ahead and tickle him with a mega shot. Can I choose where to hit exactly? No. 0 damage. Oh no. No. Oh my gosh. Oh, 105 damage. 600. Oh no. Wait, I don't think they can recover from that. Verm says, I got to escape. Oh no, Verm. Listen, so we can end stream and we can all pretend we didn't play this game. What do you say? Is it a deal? Keep going. I'm looking away. No, you gotta see what happens. I know what's gonna happen, Sandman. Oh my gosh. Okay, Verm. I'm sorry, buddy. Your gods are not nice. Your gods, the developers of this game, have darkness in their hearts, okay? They only gave you this option, so I'm so sorry. Verm says, Lance needs my help. Okay. Attack it, Verm. No, Verm, they're not going to do that. The gods of your realm are evil. You have to be stronger, Verm. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. It's getting scary. It's getting really scary. No. Verm, I'm so sorry. No. How many times are you gonna make me do this? Oh, that's not good. Oh no. Is this how the game ends? Verm, I got some bad news, buddy. Oh no. Oh no. This is very sad. This is very sad, everybody. I'm so sorry. Would you like to save your game? Not really. Just kidding. Aww. They can say run, mouse, run. They do? I missed that little detail. They just said that's pretty sneaky to put that in the background. Your game has been saved. Please tell me there's time magic. Please tell me I can undo all of this. Oh, I'm sorry, Tammy Beans. It's okay. It's only a game. It's not real. This looks like the organization game. I never played it though. Welcome. Wait, is this in the future? Verm learned rage. Everybody? Verm just got a lot more edgier really quick. Let's see how edgy Verm has gotten. Look at how bad something Verm looks. Verm looks amazing. So maybe the tail thing was a good thing. Except for Lance, that was not a good thing at all. Let's go ahead and spend some points. 2 health. Yes, please. Well, Verm, how are we gonna make this right? You got 5 seeds. Okay, I have a question. Okay, I just thought of something right now. Turn into Berserk. What does Simon say? And then he's gonna turn out to be the villain. Small, is that the Swiss Army knife? Yes. I don't know how instantly, or I don't know how much time has passed. I'm assuming a lot of time has passed, but yeah, apparently he can carry that Swiss Army knife now, which is pretty amazing and cool. What was bothering me? Oh, when Lance leveled up, their level up thing was get 5 seeds when you defeat in battle, and I can't even use that power because, well, you saw what happened. I can't even use that power, so why did they allow me to even do that? Was that to deceive me, to be like there was a chance of hope, and then they took it away from me? Okay, we're done with that. What kind of stuff we have? Let's look at the army knife. Or, I mean, the Swiss Army knife, or whatever it's called. It's called Titan Reaper. He went back and got it. For slain monsters of all sizes, plus 5 damage. The cloak fits for near duels. What? I don't know what that hyphenated word is. Plus 3 to defense, and you also have the peanut. Thank goodness I gave the peanut to Verm. Because of reasons. So, Verm's doing really well for himself. He has like a god home now. Very nice. Very nice. So you're doing well for yourself, Verm. You're doing really well for yourself. Look at this kitchen. You got okay, this is not Verm. See this? This is not good, Verm. What? It's an orange god. Tiger. You should not have come here, mouse. Oh my god. Is this gonna get darker? Ginger? Small. Ginger god? Is that what this is? Holy cat. Verm says, I'm passing through to a Carn Bailey? Carn Bailey? Bailey? I don't know what that is. Let me be, and I will make no trouble. Oh, I wish I could do like, wait. Does anyone know how to do echo effects in Discord? Oh, I can't do it. It'll probably take me a while to figure that out. I think the cat needs like an echoey voice or scariness. Is that easy to do? Let me do a Google search really quick. I feel like that would add a lot to it. Wait, how do I figure this out? How to change your voice online? Oh man, I wish I had a voice changer thing. Oh, this is not helping. How to use free voice changer app on a PC. Is that gonna be malware? It's probably gonna be malware. I'll try to do it myself, okay? I will try to do, oh, I just closed everything. I'll try to do it myself and make my own voices, okay? This may not work very good. You can use like voice mod. Let's see. Oh, Span Man, I'm not prepared. I would, that gives me an idea where to look. Voice, I think Sib knows how to do it too. I'm gonna ask Sib. But we'll do that another time. Here we go. I will try to do a voice, but you gotta install that stuff. Does everyone got an hour or two? Can I install this stuff so I can do the cat voice right? No, I'm just kidding. I want to do that. Tiger says, oh. Wait, how do I do a deeper voice? Let me try to talk deeper. Oh, wait. I'm gonna cover my mouth on my work. Oh, you found trouble, friend. Does that sound cooler now, or does it sound like I'm just covering my mouth, basically?
I'm the predator, and you're the prey. You run, and I chase. That's the way of the nature.
Oh, I said put the instead of. Let me try that again.
That is the way of nature.
Well, is that true? Aren't you a zoologist? Verm, if you can fight this ginger or orange god, you're pretty amazing. But I think you should run. Verm says, who said anything about running? Ooh. What was the question? It was a silly question, Small. The cat was saying it's a way of nature that mouse is prey and the cat chases and stuff. It's true, that kind of. Who said anything about running?
What's this?
Sorry, I hit my mic, jeez. Just gonna punch my mic. Heavy step.
A mouse wielding a god weapon? Now I've seen it all. Very well. Show me your strength. Amuse me.
I'll do more than amuse you. I'm gonna rage. Let me first figure out what rage does. Go berserk, doubling up attacks for 2 turns. Make me angry. I'm gonna rage. All over your face! Verm says, you're no predator. You're nothing but an overfed fuzzy ball. Tiger says,
Bold words for a morning snack.
wow! 2 damage is not, that's not impressive actually, Tiger. That was kind of weak. I'm gonna be honest with you, that was kind of weak. But Tiger, watch this. This is the power of a god weapon. 4 damage! You can only do 2! My attack again. Guess what? 2 turns I get to do that. Take another 8 damage. Tiger says,
Impressive. But it takes more than that to hurt a tiger.
uh-oh. Wait, why are we having a scene cut? What is look at that, it's not a groundhog, what do you call that, mole rat? It's talking to a gnome, it's having question marks. What's going on? What? Sobahan? See, how do you say that? Where's my, I need a text to speech, no joke. Text to speech. Can I use anyone? Is this one online? You can choose, let's choose Tony.
I can't wait to see where life takes.
Yeah, I can't wait either. For personal use, please. Loading. Okay, I need to say the word S-I-O-B-H-A-N. H. That's all right. Okay, go ahead and talk for me.
Siobhan.
Is it Siobhan? No way. Is that Siobhan? Did I say that right? Siobhan. Sandman, Sandman, you know English. I do not know English. Siobhan. That's like a very fancy name, right? Also, I'll be right back. Want a snack? Get a good snack, Small. You probably can't hear me though, but I'm gonna in spirit wish that you get or hope you get a good snack. Paige must say, oh, I wonder if this mouse is outside the kitchen. Oh, hopefully, yeah. Let me see it again. Siobhan. Siobhan. It looks nothing like those words. Salmon, when I compare your word of how to actually say it and what I actually see on the screen, they're completely different. Just want to say that yeah. It's not my fault, it's English's fault. Whoa, is that a mouse? Says Siobhan. A mouse knight fighting tiger? Oh no! No, Vern. Oh, be careful. You listen, Siobhan, be careful that that's a god weapon. This sword is heavy as anything. Wait, this sword is heavy as anything. How did the mouse knight even swing it? Oh, Verm says. Siobhan says, oh, grand, you're not dead. Steady your feet now. I don't know why I'm saying I'm having accents again. Are you hurt? Verm says, don't touch that. Don't touch that. I'm fine. Siobhan says, whoa, he's the real deal. Verm says, pardon? Siobhan says, I saw you going paw to claw against Tiger. Blow for blow. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. It was amazing. Well, then, he sent you flying, that is. I had to drag you here before he gobbled you. Wait. Gobbled you up? It was a close call. Wait, gobbled? No, he was thrown. What do you mean gobbled? I had to drag you here before he gobbled. Oh, before he gobbled you up, but he was thrown out, right? Verm says, you dragged me here? Ooh, what is this place? Secrets. Verm says, where is here exactly? Siobhan says, oh, right. Hold on. We're engineers. We know how to build things. Like the music. Cran Bailey. Am I reading that right even? Is it Bailey? Or Bale? Let me get my text to speech. Siobhan. I'm gonna try to read some of this word. I had a hard time with like Pokemon too when I was reading words. Cranbale. Okay, so it's Cranbale. Got it. For now, I'm probably gonna forget though, honestly. I'd say Bale. Yeah, that's correct. You got it, Sandman. The text speech said it that way too. Cranbale. This is Cranbale, the sanctuary of knowledge. Well, that sounds pretty cool. What kind of knowledge you got here? Siobhan says, it is! Welcome, welcome! I'm Siobhan, daughter of Lady... Oh, God. Gilda. She's the head of the village. Oh, you should come meet her. Mommy! Mommy doesn't normally like visitors, but here's something special. Verm says, fine. I have a question for her anyway. Lead the way. You gonna follow Verm? Go! Okay, sorry, I'm yelling. Do I have to follow her immediately? I want to check this place out. I probably can explore it later, right? There's a save point. I'm gonna. Oh, should I save it? I'll save it. This is a different statue. Oh, I'm overwhelmed. There's a lot of cool stuff to look at. It's a tin statue of a mole dressed in humble robes. The plaque reads, "A rodent's life is short. A written story is eternal." Oh, I like that. That's really cool. Lore Master Tobin, founder of Cranbale. How do you say this again? Cranbale. I think it's Cranbale. Let's see. Lore Master Tobin, founder of Cranbale Library. Lore Master Tobin studies quietly. Save your game? Yes. Thank you, Small. Your game has been saved. I'm just gonna follow her. I'm gonna assume I can come back here. This might be like a hub, I hope, or a place I come back occasionally. Unless she wants me to explore. I'm sure the game would tell me if I have to or whatever. I forgot her name already. Why do I have such a bad memory?
Cranebale.
Cranebale, and her name, Shilban. Oh my gosh. I'm never gonna be a voice actor. I think you gotta be able to read to be a voice actor, right? You can really hear me typing.
Cranebale
Siobhan. Where have I heard that word? I don't think I've ever heard that word before recently. Siobhan. It sounds like some kind of fancy perfume or something. What's that perfume you have? It's called Siobhan. Siobhan says, this is this is a council room. Ready to go in? Yes, I am. Wait, what's this down here first? No, I'm not ready yet. What's this rock here? Oh, what is this? You found 2 seeds behind the rock? Score! You can find little goodies behind things. I'm assuming the seeds are like currency. What? The moles are deafish? Deafish? Nice. Ooh, all these characters. What is all this? Gilda says, Siobhan, shouldn't you be studying? Who is this outsider? Siobhan says, oh yes, introductions. That's Lore Master Morvin on the left. Blade Master Neiman, the Hedge Knight on the right. Ah, it's like Sonic, but probably slower because it's actual hedgehog. Siobhan says, and mummy, I mean Lady Gilda of Crandale in the middle. Wait, what? Mommy, this is... I didn't get your name. Verm. Right, Sir Verm. Sir? I'm not a knight. Really? Huh? Anyway, Mommy, I saw this guy fighting Tiger. He was swinging around a god weapon like nobody's business. That stupid cat had no idea what he was dealing with. I think this guy might actually be able to... Gilda says, calm yourself, young lady. Devon says, sorry, Mommy. I don't know why I want to say it like that. I want to say the mummy in the weird way. Gilda says, Mouse, you fought the what? Feladay with a god weapon. What the heck's a Feladay? The Feladay? Wait, what? I didn't read those yet. Berman says, what can I say? Rodent weapons are so brittle. And Marvin says, such arrogance. To fight a god's pet with a god's weapon? This is sacrilege! Sacrilege of the worst kind! In accordance with the laws of the old ways, a punishment is in order, my lady. They're gonna punish me. I think I'm getting a little delirious here. Oh, no punishment! What are you gonna do? Are you gonna punish me? I have a god weapon. You know who I am? I fight gods, so yeah. Neiman says, want me to put him to the stockade? The stockade? Try it. pine cone. See what happens. Chili dogs. No, that's not what he says. Gilda says, everyone quiet. This mouse is a visitor. He is not bound by our local customs. We won't punish you, mouse, but we won't help you either. Do whatever it is you came to do, and then take your leave. Fine. I didn't plan on sticking around anyway. But before I go, I need some information. I'm looking for the one known as Yellow God. Glinda says, the Yellow God. I'm afraid we don't know any gods on a first-name basis around here, except for Cormac, I suppose. Have you heard of this Yellow God, Loremaster Marvin? I'm afraid not, my lady. Perhaps this mouse should head to Morida. 1 million mice and rats live there. Nobles, merchants, academics. I'm sure one of them can be of assistance. Verm says, that was going to be my next destination anyway. Glinda says, very well. Take your leave, mouse. I said good day. I said good day. Siobhan says, Sir Verm, wait up. Glinda says, Siobhan, may I have a word? Mingling with, what's that called? Blaspheming? I didn't know that was a word, actually. Mingling with blaspheming vagabonds is most unbecoming of a young lady. Siobhan says, stop calling me young lady. You know I hate it. Mommy. Gilda says, young lady, you are nobility. Know your place and return to your studies. Siobhan says, studies? Mommy. That Felide. What is Felide? Is that a word? I'm gonna search that because I'm getting a little worried that doesn't make sense to me. That's not a Felides is a family of animals in the order Carnivore. Oh my gosh, it's gonna use like root words, weird stuff. How do you actually say that though? How do you define what have text to speech? Define, Google. Does it usually have text to speech? Maybe go to dictionary. Never say text.
Feelidy.
Feelidy. It's like feel. Feelidy. I'm probably gonna forget that instantly though. But at least I said it. Feelidy. Feelidy diddly diddly. Okay, Siobhan says, Mommy, that Feelidy is killing us off one by one, and you aren't doing anything to stop it. Gilda says, not another word. What would your father have said if he saw you mingling with a vagabond? Siobhan says, well, that's not here, is he? That's not here. Siobhan's got a little sassy there. Gilda says, that rock-headed, I almost replaced that last word. You can use your imagination to figure out what word I was going to use. That rock-headed child. Neiman says, she thinks herself a warrior. Her father's daughter, all right. Gilda says, hold your tongue, Blade Master. Yes, my lady. Sorry, my lady. Worm says, let me guess. Your mom told you off for hanging around with strangers. I'm a bad mouse. All the kind of bad you want to know. Why is her eyes twinkling? Is her eyes twinkling? Look at her eyes. Oh, they're twinkling. Okay, sorry. Verm says, wait, are you crying? Oh, are they crying? I thought they were like romantic eye things. No. I'm not good with this kind of thing. Do you mean emotions? No, Siobhan says, Mommy's so darn quick. No, darn stuck up. Ever since Dad died, she's been obsessed with following the old ways to the letter. No God tools, no God interference at all. But what good's that doing us? How does cowering in a burrow help anyone when tigers on the prowl? I'm gonna say I get it. Because I do get it. I get it. Okay? There, I said it. I said I get it. What does this say, Simon? Ziggbee thought she was like, wow. Twitch. Yes, I thought she was like, what is it called? Enamored? Looking up to, like, oh my gosh, he's so dreamy. He's so edgy and dreamy. Verm says most rodents would rather hide away than to face real issues head on. But you seem like a smart kid. I'm sure you'll make it through this. Siobhan says, wait, before you go, can I show you something? It'll only take a minute. Okay, I don't know where this is going, so should I turn this off or like review it first or I should have streamed so late. Vern says 1 minute. 1 minute. Siobhan says, yes, just something in the library. Small says, I'm gonna head out now because I have work later. I hope the gaming goes well. And Sandman, I want all the details later. Wait, what is it? JH? I think you meant to put HJ. Half joking, I think. Good night, Small. I may not be up too much longer, Small. I meant half joking. No worries, Small. You don't have to yell at me with caps. I'm kidding. You can. I'm just joking. Good night, Small. Have good dreams, okay? Okay, sleep well. Thanks for hanging out, and I had fun playing and stuff. Oh my gosh, I didn't mean to push the button. I didn't read it. Oh, wait, come back. Oh, I'm supposed to go to the library. Okay, never mind. I'm cool. Everything's cool, everybody. Sorry if I'm too loud. I like to yell sometimes. Oh, you sassy runs away. Oh, you sass runs away. Oop, am I too late? Axolotl? A little bit, I'm sorry. It's not ending yet. I'm curious what's gonna happen. I'm legitimately curious what's gonna happen because it's very fascinating. It's kind of fun too. Though it got kind of dark at the beginning. Hopefully I didn't traumatize Tammy Beans. I really hope I didn't traumatize Tammy. Wait, where did she go? Can I just go to anyone's house? Shh, we'll sneak around a little bit. I'm gonna steal stuff. Fergus says, you look like a sturdy lad. You're a warrior, are you not? I am. I knew it! You have those warrior's eyes. Is this person coming off a little creepy? Because I feel a little creeped out. I was a fighter in my youth too. I'll have you know, a member of Merida's Thimble Guard 'em all. Full of words. Worm says, I'm sure you were. Ha! Don't give me lip, lad. I may be past my prime, but I had more fights than you had dinners. I've got years of battle-tested wisdom and to offer. Listen to me, you little mole rat. Did you go into a store where there was food, a hoard of food, and confront a god? and lose your friend and have to cut your tail? I think not, sir. Good day. Good day to you. I'll have him go. I'll have him tell. I'm curious what he's gonna say. Go on then. What's the key? Weakness. Everyone has a weakness. If you use the right type of attack, you can exploit it. The right type of attack. Ah, you really are young. Let's see. How can I put this? There are 4 kinds. You got your slashing attacks. That's sword and such. And there's your bashing attacks, hammers, and blunt instruments. Spears and pikes give you piercing attacks. And the 4th kind is love. No, just kidding. No, it's not that. Hopefully he's not gonna say that. Is oh, he doesn't know what the 4th one is. He made it up. Special attacks, like fire or water or whatever. Wait, what? Do they have magic? Verm says, you're making this up as you go, aren't you? And Fergus says, oh, shut your bake? Did I read that right? Oh, shut your bake. This system is famous. Everyone has a weakness. Find and exploit it. I'm gonna ask about a cat. This wise, creepy mole person might have some wisdom, and I'm gonna ask what the weakness of the cat is, okay? Oh, no, don't select that one. Okay. So what's the weakness of the field day? Hee, you're talking about Tiger. Wish I knew. I've seen mole warriors slash, bash, and stab that kitty. But his fur is just too damn thick. Wait, should I have said that? Nobody clipped that. No one sound clipped that. That sounded weird when I said it. Fergus says, no. Page. No, we got a bad blood. Wait, what do you mean bad blood? Okay, Fergus says, no. If someone wanted to take that monster down, they'd have to do something truly special. We're just gonna leave it like that. You have a weak sword. Oh, it's a mouse sword. The blade is dull. But what the heck is that? That's like a fleur équique. I don't know what that is. Points on the pommel shines bright like a diamond. I don't know. Oh, what's that? I can read the books too. You see a book titled Miss Molly's Book of the Many Maladies? What? Did I read that right? I want to read this. This is education. I want to see what this is. The first chapter is bleeding. When cut, a rodent bleeds. Small cuts will heal on their own, but large cuts may cause severe blood loss over time. This is valuable information right here. Cures, or it just says cure. Treat heavy bleeding with bandages as soon as possible. Next chapter or section, stunned. A rodent who has been afflicted by the toxic venom of some foul creature may find themselves unable to move at all. Cure. Stunning tends to cure itself over time once the venom has left the body. How many? This book has like 100 pages probably? I'm just joking, probably doesn't. Berserk. A rodent who is enraged will lash out with double fever. Cure. There's no cure for that. A berserked individual will eventually calm down. Sessions with a therapist may alleviate further outbursts. They're making jokes now. They're making little jokes here and there. Tipsiness. That's when you drink too much, right? A rodent who drinks alcohol may become tipsy. A little tipsy. I mean, that's often why we do it. But a tipsy rodent will become most unreliable. Cure. If needs must, drink an espresso. Good, just life advice right there. Sandman, gotta find a mouse therapist. Bro, these people, this little group is very fancy. They have a library and stuff, so I wouldn't doubt they would have actual mouse therapists, which would be pretty amazing. Nice bed, sir. It's okay to just check your whole house out. What do you got in here? Smells like worm and nettle stew. Hearty mole cuisine. Can I say anything else here? Like I said, to defeat a Philadale, whatever, a warrior would need something truly special. How about a god weapon? Got one. Let's go. I'm gonna go over here and now talk to this person. What's going on? Corrine, that old tiger's a right piece of work. Can't be doing anything when he's on the prowl. True dat. I should have read that sign. Let me go back. Oh, I can't. Never mind. Welcome. Ah, an outsider. Welcome to Tula's. Welcome to Tula's. Take a gander at what's in stock. Got a shoe. That's nice. Got some pickaxe. I like that. Pickaxes. You have no need for them. Okay. How about some shoes? Sturdy mushroom leather boots. Is there such thing as mushroom leather? They do not look comfy. Oh, okay. What's this in here? It's a hefty cauldron. You have no need for this. What's this over here? What's some towels? Rolls of linen and fabric. Are these mole or god made? I don't know. Which one is it? Depends. I don't know. These people they have an elevator. They literally have an elevator. So what it'll be? Well, I got a god weapon, but let's see if we got anything better than my god weapon, okay? I need a sword capable of killing titans and gods. I see. Double-edged, solid steel. Is it? Wait, why is my controller not working now? There we go. Oh, my nose, don't sneeze. Verm says, sure, but I'll settle for iron. Bella, look around yourself. This shop sells bits and bobs for the humble people of Canbale. Dale. Cookingware, mining equipment, linens and such. This isn't a royal armory. Yejit. Can I say that word? Is that a really bad word? I don't know. It sounded like a really offensive word. Verm says, well, do you have anything I can use? Tulia says, I can do you a pair of high quality mole-made boots. Good for hiking or mining, and only 5 seeds. That's a fair price now, isn't it? What do you say? 5 seeds for these boots? What do you think? Paige, Sandman, Tony, should I buy these boots? Is that a deal? To take it or leave it? Should I take it? Should I take it? Yeah, he does look barefoot now. That's true. That's true. Sandman's on agreement. Paige did not give a definitive answer, but is leaning towards the boots. B, mouse in boots. Okay, mouse in boots it is. We are going to make a deal. Make a deal. Oops, what do Wait, why can I click it? Is my controller disconnected again? Deal! Firm says, sounds good. I'll take them. Grand, says the shopkeeper. You received a pair of mole boots. Try to stay out of mischief, says the shopkeeper. This village has seen enough adventure. You know, you usually say thank you for your business, please come again, not don't cause trouble, you young in your shenanigans. Okay, never mind. Boots, please. Oh, I replaced my cape though. What do the boots do? Wait, they're plus. Wait. Okay. Controller, why did you? My controller might be low on power. Let me see if we can connect this thing up. Where's the USB? That's an S connector. Why is technology so hard all the time? Use my USB. Maybe it's low on power. Plug this in the USB. Controller, does that help you? You're not turning on now. It's not working. We're gonna use a keyboard, or try to. How does this work? Okay. How do you go back? Z is a select. Okay. It is stronger though, so I will use the boots. It doesn't reflect it in my character though. How do I go back? This is X does it. Okay. I'm using keyboard now, just so you know. That's what I was doing. Hopefully it's not too loud when I touch the buttons. I'll do it softer. Hello, sir. Charlie's. This is Charlie. What is going on in chat? Oh, okay. The character sprite still looks the same when you change the arm. Yeah, that would be a really cool detail if they did that. It changes as well. But then again, Vern's outfit's really cool currently. Charlie says, the crown is happy to take our seed for taxes. But where's their support when we need it, huh? That's what I'm saying. Well, that's how you say you're just complaining. Trying to cause riots in the street? What do you call that when someone's against the authority? I don't know what it's called. That's the library. What's this place? Another random person's house I'm gonna go into? Hello, what's going on? Riley says, I can't play. My mom says it's not safe out. That your mom has good advice. Do you mind if I just look around your house? A stranger just come in your house, look around. Do you have anything in your chest? Can I look inside there? What is this? You found a roll of bandages. Is it okay if I take the bandages? I don't know, it doesn't matter. It's a game. Let's go to the library. The library. There we go. Charlie sits down with the government. I know, they're just allowed to be in the street. I'm less of a troublemaker than Charlie. Charlie's a bigger troublemaker. What is that? That's a long word. Anti-establishment. I don't know the rest of that word. Ism. Okay, who is this? Who's talking? Inogen. Is that how you say that? Inogen? Are you behaving yourself? Siobhan? I am Inogen, I guess. Sandman says, I think that's the word you were looking for. Oh, okay, I see. That was a big word then. That's too... Rebel, that works too. See, Tony... Just Tony has a very small word. You have a very fancy word because you're very fancy, Sandman. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing. Siobhan says, I am anti Inogen, of course. Inogen says, shouldn't you be studying? I should, but I was just going to show this visitor the illuminated, what's that? Manuscripts in the back. They know the troubles, young lady. Your mother worries about you. I know. Verm says, illuminated manuscript. Illuminated manuscript. Siobhan says, just follow me. Following. Can I read all the books? Oh my gosh, can you read all the books? I'm sorry, but I want to read all the books. I'll literally just read one book, okay? I'll just read one of these books. You see a book titled The Rights of Masters by Lord Master Sylvia. Read it. As personal bodyguard to lords, ladies, kings, and queens, blade masters are required to be loyal, chivalrous, and of course, exceptional in combat. In contrast, a lore master serves their lineage by offering wisdom gained from 2 whole seasons of study at a licensed university. Larger cities often employ a variety of other masters to serve as advisors. Plague masters oversee the health of a colony. Feed masters manage the city's treasury. Build masters specialize in urban planning. Of course, all this fine counsel is irrelevant if a lineage refuses to listen, as it often is the case. Oh, that was very educational. I kind of like that book. I could probably give it a 3 out of 5, maybe. You know, Barnes & Noble rating. I might leave a message here. Sandman says, the rodent with the super wrinkly brain. I need to read more. I lied. I'm reading more books. You see a book titled The Old Way. Okay. Tell me about the old ways. Back in my day... No, just kidding. To follow the path of the old way, thou must abide by 3 laws. Thou shalt not harm a god. Thou shalt avoid the god's gaze. Thou shalt not toy with the god's tools. Obey these laws, and rodent and god may live peacefully side by side as they have done for thousands of years. Disobey these laws, and the gods will punish us with fire and suffering. Okay, that was a pretty good book. I really like it. It reads hard. I like it. It's like real, like that's the gods. Oh, the fire. Oh my gosh, I like it. That's a 5 out of 5 book right there. That's fire. What does Paige say? Oh shoot, that's a good. Thank you, Paige. Yeah, that's my favorite so far. Out of all the books I read here, that's my favorite. I like the old ways. I'll just carry that book around with me. Here, let me bring out my book. It's The Old Ways. Let's go ahead and read through it together, okay? Let's not forget The Old Ways. You see a book titled The Pact of 5, okay? Okay, The Old Ways is too good. I don't know if you're gonna find a better one than that. Okay. Following the massacre on the Eastern Mire. Wait, what? This is. I don't like this book already. It starts out way too dark too fast. Following the massacre on the Eastern Mire, Emperor Marcus wrote the Pact of 5. This legal document granted Rodentin civilianship to 5 key species: rats, moles, mice, shrews, and squirrels. Carnivores were explicitly excluded. Even now, long after the fall of the Shrew Empire and the rise of the Rat Monarchy, the pact is held as sacrosanct. I don't know what that word is. Almost like croissant. It's a croissant, forming the basis of modern rodent law. That book was trash. I would want to do 0 stars for that book. That book was not good. I did not enjoy it. Just not good. Blessed by the Old Ways. Thank you. You get the idea, Just Tony. I gotta read that book again. I'm sorry. I'm gonna read this book. It deserves a second read. No, not that. No. Put that back. That's garbage. This book though, it's got some things. I like it. Ready? I'm gonna read this again. I gotta read this again. Croissant. To follow the pact, I should almost like put this to memory. To follow the pact of the old ways, thou must abide by 3 laws. Everyone pay attention, take notes. Thou shalt not harm a god. Thou shalt avoid the god's gaze. Thou shalt not toy with a god's tools. Obey these laws, and rodent and god may live peacefully side by side as they have done for thousands of years. Disobey these laws, and the gods will punish us with fire and suffering. Why couldn't books be this long in like school and stuff? Like they're like a couple paragraphs and you're done. Let's be honest, we didn't read books in school. We just read the back of the book. Next book. You see a book titled Wholesome Mouse Recipes. Oh, see something wholesome, everybody. Let's see what wholesome things are. Sweet seed biscuits. Ooh, they want some sweet seed biscuits. Serves 4 or just one really hungry mouse. That's true. That's true for everything, actually. Ingredients: 1 acorn, cup of flour. Wait, is there such thing as flour of acorn? 1 acorn, cup of flour, 1 paw of smashed banana, 1 ground seed, a sprinkle of cinnamon. You guys have cinnamon? Directions: mix the ingredients. 2, spread over a greased baking coin. Baking coin, it's adorable. 3, cook over candle flame for 3 minutes or until firm. Eat warm or cool. I wonder if you actually try to make this for real, would it actually be like a treat? I mean, it has no sweetness in it though. Because it only has like, I don't know if you can actually make acorn flour, I have no idea. Mashed banana is easy. Ground seed, that like what kind of seed? And cinnamon? It wouldn't have any sweetness to it. Interesting, no, actually to a mouser wrote it, it's probably very delicious. We kind of like, I think humans enjoy sugar a lot. Well, I do at least. I think their cups are made of acorns. Is that what they meant? Wait, let me read that again. Did I read that wrong? Acorn cup. Oh, thank you, Paige. Oh my gosh, I'm dense. That's acorn cup is a cup that is an acorn. I get it. A flour. A pause like a handful of mashed banana. Ground seed, sprinkle of cinnamon. What does that taste like? Flour, banana, seed. I almost wonder if that can you make something like that? What would that be? I'm sure it's probably made up though. There's more books here, everybody. You see a gold trimmed book titled The Fable of how do you say that? Hussein. Wait, let me do a text to speech for that. Hussein? Probably I spelled that wrong. I can't see the keyboard very good because my microphone's like right in front of me. Let's try this.
Cranbale Siobhan Hussein.
What was that?
Cranbale Siobhan Hussein.
Hussein? I think it's Hussein. Like Barack Obama Hussein? No, wait, Barack Hussein Obama? Is that how you say? Is that the middle name? Hussein? Yeah, that's what the text-to-speech says is. You see a gold-trimmed book titled The Fables of Hussein. A young viper, what viper? That's a snake, right? A young viper found herself stranded on the bank of a great river. After slithering for a while, she encountered a raven. I would be most grateful, said the viper, if you would fly me across the water. The raven squinted at the feigned worm before him. You're not going to bite me, are you? I wouldn't dream of such a thing, the viper replied. Her forked tongue flicked back and forth. Against his better judgment, the raven agreed. He picked up the viper in his talons, spread his wings, and flew skyward. Soon enough, the two landed on the other side of the river, safe and unharmed. The viper bowed in thanks. Hold up, said the raven. Why didn't you bite me? You had every opportunity. Isn't biting in your nature? The viper smiled. It's all things of nature. There is something of the... Wait, what? Something of the marvelous... Wait, I feel like I missed that entire... What is it talking about? The viper smiled. In all things of nature, there is something of the marvelous. What? Did I read that right? Wait, did I read that right? I'm not understanding the last part. Salmon, I wouldn't... I would have been more worried being the viper, to be honest. Wouldn't the raven want to eat it? Yeah. I think they sometimes eat snakes and stuff. I assume, I think. What is this story? Does anyone know what this means, though? In all things of nature, there is something of the marvelous. Marvelous is just like wow, or awesome, or cool, or that's amazing. Paige says, yeah, I also don't understand the last sentence. Marvelous. In all things of nature, there is something of the marvelous. I don't. Maybe that might be mentioned again somewhere. That's weird. Verm says, I'm not interested in some old books. Let's all pause for a moment and read that again, okay? Verm, me, says, I'm not interested in some old books. I just read through the entire library. Siobhan says, never mind the books. I've got something better. But you can't tell anyone about this, alright? Especially not Mummy. Verm says, sure, whatever. Siobhan says, hey, I'm serious. Promise me. Sure, Jan. That's a good one. That's a good reference. Jan's got a boyfriend. Sure, Jan. Sure. Verm says, all right. I promise. Look at my secret hole. Isn't it glorious? I don't know. Everything's funny to me, apparently. Verm says, a tunnel? Oh, whoops, I pushed the wrong button. A tunnel? Siobhan says, I dug it myself. Come on. I got more books to read. I don't like books. Let me read all these books really quick. These books have been written in illuminated mole script. Holy bagolies. They're right there. Unless she just has something else to show me entirely. They are beautiful, but you cannot understand the writing. How about this one? Is this also? The books in this case are old and tattered. You tried to read one, but the pages crumble between your fingers. I probably shouldn't have done that. I think I just destroyed some of their history. Whoops. Sorry about that. They have a Game Boy and a watch and a battery. Oh my God, they have godly treasures locked away in the library in a secret hole. I mean tunnel. They have god items. Verm says, a treasure trove, huh? Siobhan says, yep, god tools. I got them for days. No, just kidding. Siobhan says, I've been secretly collecting and studying. How the heck did you get the Game Boy in here? Your hole's not big enough. I mean, your tunnel's not big enough. What? Is that a Nokia phone? Those are bulletproof. Oh, and indestructible. You guys can be gods. Wait, what's going on? Paige was saying, I was thinking the same thing. Siobhan says, I've been secretly collecting and studying for a whole season now. You see this? It's a god timekeeper. I can't read the runes yet, but I'm getting there. This machine's a fancy god toy, I think. I watched a young one play with it for hours. It turns on, but the screen's all jank. What is that? Banjix? I don't know what that word is. So I reckon it's missing a part. You got the part right there at the battery. Well, you need a couple of them. This is all fascinating, truly, says Verm. But if you brought me down just to show me your trinket collection, Siobhan says, wait, you really like this next one. Oh my gosh, what is it? Is that a battery or lighter? It makes fire! We're gonna be a wizard! Siobhan says, do you know what this is? Vern says, I've seen them around. I know they're a common god tool. Siobhan says, even better, a god weapon like yours. I've got it working. Even spruced it up to pack a proper punch. But it is in need of a field test. I thought if I could use it on Tiger, give him what for. Maybe save the village. But I don't think I can. Not because I'm scared. I mean, I am scared. Of course. But, Vern, I get it. I get it. Vern gets it. He's in the know. Siobhan says, you do? Vern says, I want to take that Fedora down, the cat. But you know attacking Tiger yourself would be suicide. The other moles in this village just sit on their tails and rant about the old ways. By the way, awesome book, 5 out of 5. Would read again. So you want me to lend my sword? Siobhan says, right. Pretty much. Could you? Verm says, sorry to disappoint. I don't Wait, what? I don't sell sword work. He means mercenary work. Sell sword work? I couldn't pay you if I wanted to. The village is flat out broke. Can I talk like a girl that's like, oh my god, totally. I'm gonna try that a little bit. What's that, man? We'll bring to next month's book. Yeah. That book is fire. It really is. I was hoping you would do it, because you're a chivalrous knight. Vern says, like I said, I'm not a knight. I didn't come here to do charity work. So go rally the thimble guard or something. I'm out. Oh no! Oh, what's happening to Vern? He's saying, is it the PTSD? Vern says, I'm not running away. Wait, what? It literally is PTSD going on, right? You think it, yeah. Vern says, I'm not running away. This is getting sad again. Siobhan says, Sir Vern, are you okay? Oh my gosh. No! Vern says, you're really pitiful. You know that? Siobhan says, yeah, I know. Vern says, I'll help you. Really? Yeah. We'll go kill! Oh my god. We will kill that cat and wear its fur! Oh my gosh. I'm joking. Well, not, this is a game. Don't worry. It's just a game. We'll go kill that fella Fiddle, the cat. You can reap the glory or restore your village honor or whatever. Just make sure to follow my orders. Siobhan says, yes, Sir Vern. To the letter. Literally slay. I'll go wait by the lift. Ooh. Thank you so much, Sir Vern. I told you I'm not a knight. Okay, she's gone. I can't yell at her if she's not here. Siobhan has joined the party. Woo! I wonder what she can do. Is she like a fire wizard? She might be the fire wizard. Vern says, well, at least if it all goes wrong, she'll make for a good distraction. Oh my gosh, Vern, that's evil. Don't, no, Vern. Vern's being kind of evil right there. Vern, be nice. I know you're very dark and stuff. Let's see what the stuff says. Siobhan said that this thing is missing a part. This device looks complicated, but none of these buttons do anything. And it's bulletproof. It's indestructible. These runes are strange, but cannot read godly writing. I can't look at the coins. I can't look at the Legos. Legos, these are dangerous. Oh, these are god-fighting weapons, these Legos. You put them on the ground and you can hurt gods. Their feet mainly. A credit card? Oh, we can do... Oh, that'd be complicated to explain to a mouse how to use a credit card. Why did the music stop? I keep running into everything. Whoops. Do you know in the back of your library, there is a hole with a lot of god items in it? Just FYI. I'm a tattletale. So where am I supposed to go? Oh, we're gonna fight the rat. I mean, not the... What am I talking about? The cat, the fedora. I'm ready. Let's do this. Siobhan says, I'm ready. Let's do this. Okay. Return to the surface? Let's go. I got some fancy mole boots. I'm good to go. That's true. I forgot about that, Sandman. Also broke your book. So sorry, bye. Should I go back down? I should probably go back down. Can I go back down? Yes. Let's go. Good call too, Sandman, I should say. In case things go awry. Also a seed. Isn't rye a seed? I can't save over the save because of the trauma. I'm sorry. I need to keep it. No, I should save over it. Should I save over it? Because I'll look at it and feel sad each time I see it. I'll save over it. No, then I don't want to forget them. What do I do? Tell me what to do. I'm having trauma from this game. Do I write over it or do I keep it? Oh gosh, what do I do? Sandman, let's do a vote. We're doing a vote. I'm sorry, it's that important. How do I do votes again? Wait, it's like the crystal ball thing, right? Save in slot 3? I don't know. I can do slot 2. I do slot 2 or 3, but... Yeah, how do you do the thing? Not prediction. What the heck is the polls? Okay, I don't know how to do this, actually. Wait, maybe the other window. Wait. Hold, please. Everybody hold. Manage goals. That's... There you go. Manage polls. Create a new poll. What? Where should I save? Question mark. Slot 1. Forget trauma. They spell trauma, right? Trauma? How do you spell trauma? Trauma. Oh gosh, this is gonna be a hard word too. Oh wait. I can use a different word. Wait. Where is it at? Forget the bad. Slot 2 or 3. And let's see here. I'll do it for 1 minute. And start. View the results. Let's see how we're doing, everybody. Do we save over slot number 1 and forget our trauma, forget the bad memories, and move on with our lives? Or do we save in 2 or 3? 2 or 3. Oh, why is everyone picking to not save at 1? I want to forget my trauma. That's probably not healthy to do, honestly. I think it's decided. There's 3 of you that want it. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and end the poll. Okay. Wait. It's not over yet. 2 people. Who's voting for slot 1? 2 people want to forget the trauma, and 3 people want to save it probably forever. I'm gonna let it go. It has a few seconds left. You have a chance to change the vote right now. If you only need 2 people to do it. It's almost gonna end. It's counting down. It's almost gone. Time is almost up. Oh, I'm sorry. We're keeping the trauma. We are keeping. Wait. Yeah, we're keeping the trauma. Okay. We are keeping the trauma. We'll save the slot number 3. So we can keep as much trauma as possible. Jeez. Wait, let me change my windows here really quick. Not this one. Not this one. I like that one. I'll keep this one open. There we go. Oh, okay. Slot number 3. We can talk to the mouse therapist about it later. That's true, Sandman. Thank you. That is very true. That's true. We'll keep it. It'll make us stronger or something. Try to make it a positive. Let's go. Okay. Listen. Good luck. Okay, good luck out there. Remember, follow my orders. Follow my orders. Okay, let's go. Can I go this way? Can I just run? Oh, what is this? Can I go in this hole? No, I can't go in that pipe. Sorry, I get distracted by pipes and stuff. Lucky gnome, bless me. Verm says, what? What is this thing? It's creepy looking, even by statue standards. Siobhan says, it's Cormac, the village's watchful protector. Vern says, oh, not doing a very good job, is he? Siobhan says, no, I guess he's not. Carmack the watchful statue stares. The watchful. Wait. Carmack the watchful stares blankly. Save your game. Oh, there's a saver right here. No. You. I guess you're a statue too, then. That makes sense. So any statue probably is a save point. Where are you, orange god? Oh my gosh, same place.
Tiger says, the warrior mouse returns.
Wait, I pushed the wrong button.
And with a mole this time.
Verm says, don't tell me the little kitty is scared of being outnumbered.
Scared? All I see before me are an...
What's it called? Oh.
All I see before me are an entree and a main course. Go ahead, mouse and mole, use your god weapons. They won't save you.
No! Light this thing on fire! Verm says, hold your nerve, mole. Whoa! Siobhan says, hold my nerve. I'm done holding my nerve. I'm going to unleash fire and fury. Now we're talking. Rage time. Vern says, light him up, Siobhan. I'm on it. Ooh. Worm fire? Do that worm fire. Whoa! 1 damage. Try better next time. Let's do swipe you. 4 damage. That's 8. Can you do the fire again? What's whack? Oh, let's do the fire again. Light it. Whoa! 12 damage. Impressive. Is she okay? Yeah, I think she's okay. I don't think I have any healing thing. Oh, actually, I'm curious. Can he heal her? Let me try this. Whoa! I'm like a healer too. He has 1 power. Let's go and use whack. It might be a basic attack. Yeah, very weak attack. Whoa! Bleeding. That's not good. Damage over time effect. Do we have rage again? I don't think we're raging currently. I kind of wasted a heal on rage. 2 turns. I should use both of them for attacking. I'm on it. They can't use fire quite yet. Maybe next turn. Wait, how do these? Oh, they gotta defend. Oh, okay. I got it. I'm learning. So let's go and swipe. I don't know if she can survive 2 turns though. So defend. So she can build up more power, basically. Did she get hurt from that? I didn't see that. Oh, he's hurt too. What should I should heal. Oh, you can only use it once per battle, right? Okay, so I don't have a choice. That's okay. I made 1 mistake in combat so far. Fire! Super. Oh, good. Thank goodness. I would have got ugly if we had to go a couple more turns. Level up! We did it! Verm learned cleave. Siobhan says, we did it! We actually did it! Vern says, but we didn't land a killing blow. Siobhan says, it doesn't matter. That kitten won't be bothering this village anytime soon. Snap, snap, snap. 3 snaps like sassy. Siobhan says, come on, let's give mommy the good news. Can I take little snacks from here? No, I can't. Woo, we did it. We did it. Soon we'll be fighting the gods. Everybody. That's probably where I'm probably going to end it. Let's end it on a high note. We had a victory against a pet of the gods. I would probably call it an orange god. Sometimes the most people call it the fedora or a diddly dee or do. I don't know. I'm just kidding. I can't read. I forgot how to say that word. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you had fun. Hopefully it wasn't too traumatic watching. So I know this is not my normal content, but it was fun to just play this game and have fun. Paige, I loved watching this game. Paige, I'll probably play it more too because it's kind of fun. So maybe I'll try to play it some more. Hopefully it's not. Might play it late at night so some people don't see it. It's fun. Thank you, Sand. Hopefully I didn't keep you up too late, Sandman. I know you probably got to do work and stuff. And oh my goodness, I hope you get some sleep or had some sleep. Gotta see what happens. Yeah, I gotta see what happens too. Thank you, Paige, Sandman. Just anybody else here lurking? Thank you for lurking. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you again next time. Have a great weekend, okay? Both of you, all of you. Oh, just Tony, you're still here too. Quite fun to watch. Might watch the stream more often. Oh, that'd be wonderful. I hope you enjoy it. Well, if you enjoy it, yeah, definitely. Thank you. Have a nice weekend, everybody. Love you all. Platonically, of course. I would give you beans if I could, and many boons and blessings. I'll save too before I'll save and stuff, but I'll end the stream. Good night, everybody. Goodbye. Goodbye, my friends. See you next time.